Disclaimer.
The thoughts and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily the views of Tash, Becky, or Be Your Best You podcast.
Hey there, lovely people. Welcome to Be Your Best You with Tash and Becky, your go-to hangout for all things spiritual, subconscious, and downright magical. We're here to sprinkle a little mystical wisdom into your everyday life and help you level up your reality.
Picture this as your cosmic coffee date, where we chat about the unseen world, blend in some psychology vibes, and stir up the subconscious magic. Get ready to be the queen of your own reality, live a life that lights you up, and have a blast doing it.
So grab your latte or your tea and let's dive into another episode of Be Your Best You, where the mystical meets the mundane and your best life awaits.
Cheers to creating magic together.
Let's do this.
Hi, welcome back to another episode of Be Your Best You with Tash.
And Becky, the guest edition. And today on the show, we have Jodi Jones.
Jodi Jones is a psychic medium, medical medium.
A frequency.
Oh, yes. She basically...
Everything. Body scanner.
Yeah, that's what you've taken from it. Jodi works specifically with empaths and highly sensitive people. So if you already know that you're an empath or highly sensitive, you're going to want to listen to this episode. I've heard a lot of things about empaths. I knew very early on that I was an empath. I got that. You dive into the world when you first get into all this stuff. But do you know what? Jodi has said some things that I hadn't heard before.
Yeah, very interesting.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say not too much more than that. Take a listen to the episode. Like we said, she gives lots of information on a really macro scale as well, but also brings it down to a micro scale to help you remember what your job is here on this earth as a highly sensitive person or empath, and also why you're so important. Enjoy. Okay, so if you're the kind of woman who's doing all the healing work, all the mindset work, all the manifesting, but you still feel stuck, it's not because you're broken. It's because your nervous system and your subconscious doesn't feel safe to slow down. So we made you a free 12-minute audio experience called Return to Self, the Subconscious Reset, to turn down the noise and bring you back to your center. Grab it free in the show notes. And today we have on the show Jodi. Jodi, welcome.
Hi ladies. I'm so happy to be here. Excited to meet you guys.
Oh, you too. We're so excited
We're
to speak
very
to you,
excited.
Jodi. Honestly, it's all very relevant for us at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
This is a topic of conversation that we talk about personally between the two of us a lot,
All
isn't
the
it?
time, yeah.
And it's becoming more and more prevalent, I think, isn't it?
Definitely.
So really excited to dig in. But before we start yapping away, Jodi, could you just tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do in the world?
Sure. So I'm Jodi Jones. I am a psychic and a medical medium. I have been working as a healer, an energy healer, for a really long time. And I started off as a registered acupuncturist. That was kind of like my first step into the healing modalities. So I studied traditional Chinese medicine, went to school for that, had a clinical practice for many years. And then spirit kind of started to give me the nudge. And, I started to pick up things about my clients that I was doing acupuncture on. So I would get voices that would come in, or I would see faces, or I would sense these. And I really kind of had no idea what was going on. And of course, you know how divine timing works. At the same time, I actually owned a wellness center, and we would bring in special guest speakers. And so there were a couple of local mediums who reached out to us and said, hey, we'd love to come and do an event at your space. And I said, sure, this is interesting. And I can remember, doing the promos for them and, selling the event and getting to know a little bit about what they do. And I remember sitting in the event when they were doing evidential mediumship. So that's where you're connecting with loved ones in spirit. And I remember sitting at the back of the room, and I could feel so much. I could feel when they were talking about the connections to the loved ones, I could see them and I could feel them. And I thought, am I making this stuff up? Is this like, and so I, fell kind of down the rabbit hole, followed the, okay, so I'm supposed to know something here. And I actually sat in a mediumship circle with one of those mediums for a few years. So just trying to figure out, what is this that I'm doing? I was always sensitive. I was born a very, very sensitive, empathic soul. And I feel like you reach a point where the pieces start to come together and you recognize that, oh, okay, that experience that I had needed to bring me here. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I see now that you tell me that, now I'm here. And so they had me learn the mediumship. So I learned and studied evidential mediumship, and I started doing that in my practice. And it was very interesting, the timing of it, because it was around COVID. So my acupuncture practice had to shut down. We weren't allowed to see patients in person. And how do you do telehealth calls with acupuncture clients? It was not the same, right? And so I was like, okay, so is this my opening for me to be stepping into doing my mediumship? And so I did it. I started sitting with clients, and we started doing small circles where I would do in event people. I was doing it live in events. And, I did that for quite a few years. And I believe that the purpose of learning that aspect of mediumship was so that I could work on some compassion. It was one of my life lessons. Definitely faith and trust were in there as well, learning all of that. And then my shift started to happen again. The never-ending story, right? And so just a few years ago, I got really sick. So I started having, and it's interesting because I know that it was leading up to it for like many years. I was kind of just pushing through all of these neurological symptoms that I was experiencing. Tried going to the doctor a few times to find out what was going on, didn't have any luck with it, had every test, saw every specialist. And then a few years ago, I got really sick, like to the point where I was having chronic vestibular migraines. So with dizziness, with spells of vertigo, my equilibrium was completely off. My adrenal glands were shot. My nervous system was not on. It was fried. And I had to stop working with my clients. It was very interesting because when I would show up with my clients, spirit would show up for them. I had no problem showing up and doing the readings for clients. But when I was trying to get information about myself for my healing, like what's going on, why, like what is this? Why are not all the supplements I'm taking not working anymore? I would get nothing. There would be silence.
So annoying.
Yeah, complete silence. And so I went through this really dark episode where, you could call it the dark night of your soul. We use that term lots. I felt like I had lost my connection to God. I didn't feel the presence of that in my life. I certainly didn't feel my spirit team. And I began seeking outside of myself for answers. So I wanted to know what was going on with me. What were these symptoms? They got so bad that I was bedbound for quite a while. I couldn't drive my car. Anytime I would go in a car, I would be car sick within minutes. And so my whole life kind of shut down around me. And I'm married 23 years, and we have 3 grown children. And I felt like my life had been taken away from me. So they started on, and they call it now the Great Rebuild. Now, it didn't feel like that when I was going through it, obviously, you can imagine. But I started looking for answers because Spirit wasn't giving them to me. And so I started having healing sessions and readings, and you name it, I was doing it. I saw so many medical mediums, so many psychics, so many energy workers. And I also went the whole, through traditional medicine as well. Saw the doctors again, did the rounds, the neurologists, all of it. And I didn't get any answers that were concrete. I didn't, everyone that I would go to see, and it was interesting because I would do this little prayer before I would go and spend all of this money with these healers that were going to save me. And I would say to my spirit team, listen, you're not talking to me about me, so can you talk to them about me, please? So that we can figure out what's going on and I can get better and I can get back to my purpose and do what I'm supposed to be doing. And I would have this session with these people and I would just instantly know, oh, this is not good. I already know this stuff that you're telling me. This is this is not the answer. And what I didn't realize at the time was my spirit team was having me go through all of these experiences so that I could gather data, information that was going to create a container that was ultimately going to be my healing sanctuary, and that was going to be the healing sanctuary for others like myself. And so through all of those experiences, they created a program called the 369 Blueprint Method. And so now, having, fully healed from everything that I've come through, fully understanding what exactly it was and why it was happening, we now help others step into the same container that are in the same spot, the ones that are, struggling and not getting any answers and are feeling stuck and don't know their purpose and all of that. So yes, all of the years that Spirit was saying to me always to clients, everything serves a purpose, always. I know when you're going through it, it does not feel like it because you don't have the answers. But I can wholeheartedly say that everything that I've experienced so far has served a glorious purpose. And so I'm honored that now they have me not only using my psychic skills and the mediumship, but they have me doing medical mediumship work. And so it was the one skill set that I was unable to find anybody out there that could do it. And so I'm very, very honored and blessed that they now work through me to be able to do medical mediumship when we do. And it's such a powerful team that's with me now. When I look at, who was with me when we started compared to now, they're amazing. Like I would love to take all the credit for it, but the only thing I have to do is I have to take care of this human vehicle so that I can be a clear channel for them to work through. And that's hard because we're humans and we have the human condition that's everybody has here. But they're showing up in a really big way. And so I'm honored to be part of this journey for so many people now.
Gosh, that's so cool, isn't it? Thank you for sharing your backstory, because we do ask it because we're always curious when, people like who are like us in this space, who are working kind of outside of the normal world, reality, whatever. There's always a story like that, isn't there, that sits behind it, that has drawn people to work in this field. And I'm sure if everybody could speak to their spirit team like you are able to, they probably would all say you have to go through all of this. You had to learn and to get your skills. And I see that in my life as well. And I am fascinated. It's like selfishly, from a selfish point of view, I'm fascinated by medical mediumship because I went to medical school and but I didn't finish, but I did go to medical school for 3 years. And then obviously I've come into this kind of like spiritual world, and I love like the bringing the two together. And I just think it's fascinating. I'd love to be able to have that skill. But again, for me, like, I know I had to go to medical school. I didn't see it as a waste because I've learned so much from going to medical school that I now can use in the work that I do in terms of I'm a hypnotherapist and I work with the subconscious mind, and and I see it, there's so many things that I've gained from that I can use. But yeah, I'm so fascinated. So then I've got so many questions. Shall I go first? So what, obviously you went from being very, very sick, not hearing anything from your spirit team, like being radio silenced, to obviously they stepped back in at some point and you got better. What happened there?
Yeah. So, I've learned so much about frequency because I feel like when they came in this time with all of the teachings for me, it was like, let's go back to the drawing board. Like, let's stop complicating everything. Let's like really just get down to the basics of everything being a frequency. And so, as in when my frequency would drop because I, would fall into, the vibrational energy of victim, right? The lack energy, because of course I stopped working and my income all of a sudden completely disappeared. So you can imagine I'm here and boom, 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 right? All of these frequency drops. And the thing about that, when we're talking about connecting with spirit in the spirit world, it's all about frequency, and I knew this, from doing the evidential mediumship. When we work in that realm, you know, a good medium is only as good as their bandwidth. So meaning when we're connecting with spirit, they do a drop in frequency to meet us. We do a rise in frequency and we meet in the middle or the medium. That's kind of the meaning behind that. And of course, it just made sense that when I started to have the physical things going on, there was a very strong mind-body disconnect that happened. And I feel like this happens with a lot of empaths and highly sensitive people, because one of the life lessons that we come into experience is the safety and stability. And it's often missing, right, when we first come in. So we do a lot of work around that. So when I was going through the physical symptoms, there was really this huge mind-body disconnect where I was like not communicating with my body, not understanding what the symptoms were, not understanding why none of the treatments that I was trying to do were working. And the reason why I wasn't hearing my spirit team was because my frequency was dropping. So when I started to do, some of the releasing of the emotional stuff and some of the healing, I used so many. One of the great things was I did some of the emotion code work, the Dr. Bradley Nelson stuff. And I really feel like that kind of helped, because it reminded me that we have all of these layers of frequency. And they're just frequency. So it doesn't mean that, we're burdened to have them for the rest of our lives. We look at them, we figure out exactly what they're trying to communicate to us and where the lesson is. And then we release them because, we want to rise in frequency and not lower in frequency. And when I started to do more of that work, and also, the understanding of the neural circuitry of the brain, and, bringing all of the aspects together, then my connection started to get stronger and stronger. And it's funny, because around the same time that I started to stop seeing my clients, I had a reading with a colleague of mine who I trust. He's a very good medium psychic. And I remember in the session, he said to me, listen, they're telling me that they are leveling you up. Your gifts are going to come online like you won't even believe. And I have that recording to this day, because I can remember sitting there in that call and thinking, what a load of crap. My gifts are already great. I have no problem connecting with the spirit world. I have no problem doing readings. And I remember thinking, yeah, you're just blowing fluff at me. But it was true. It's true. So the fact that I had to go through all of that stuff to be able to, change my entire blueprint, my entire frequency, that now when they communicate with me, it's on a next level. Like, it's just, the things that they're able to do, instantly diagnose, tell people, what they're taking that is not a frequency match for them, what the parent portals, bringing them in and saying, why why they chose those frequent, like, so much that it's mind blowing for sure.
That's amazing.
Wow, it's like one of those body scanners, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just
How do you see when you're doing the medical mediumship? How do you experience it? Because it's so funny, because we were literally just talking about this before you came on. How do you experience it? How does it come to you?
Yeah, so when I go in and I open the channel, I'm definitely going into a bit of a trance state, right? In order to be able to, I have to step out of the way. They literally, the mind has to go off. That's the hardest part of doing the work that I do, because there's no thinking, no thought involved in it. And then they come through. And so I'm kind of like a innocent bystander, because I get to watch. Like I'm kind of like sitting at the back of the body. They start and they'll go through and they'll highlight. So very much they know where to go and where to start. And I get a whole kind of download of, all my clairs. So I get a sense or a knowing of if something feels heavy or light, or like the texture of it, or whatever it is that they're looking at. I also get a knowing and a feeling of whether it's like physical only or it's emotional. And because I'm clairvoyant, I see it. So I'm literally seeing, the anatomy of the body, the structures, what's showing up. And obviously all of the training that I did, for acupuncture, that part comes in very handy now for sure. Yeah. And that's what they do. And it's very interesting because they also come in without any emotional energy around it, which I feel like is kind of interesting, because we think in the spiritual community, and especially as empaths, I'm a full-blown empath. And if it was just me going in and doing the work, I feel like, and they're just saying to me now, my emotions would cloud the judgment, right?
Yeah.
So when they come in, it's very matter of fact. It's very, we see this, the body's doing this is from this is, which I feel like is good, because it gives us such a clear path.
Yeah.
It doesn't complicate things. It makes things very, very simple and easy to understand. And, if you've ever been somebody that's struggling physically, you want less complications.
Yeah. So
right?
true.
And you also, too, this was one of the frustrations I had. I went and saw a few medical mediums that, had sessions with them. And it was always really vague. It was always like, either it was too, spiritual. Oh, I see your aura, the color of it was that stuff. Or it was, well, your thyroid is showing up. But it was like, okay, well, what about my thyroid?
Yeah.
Can you expand on that a little bit? Can you tell me? So I'm honored that, the team that I work with, they show us the root cause of things. So they go in and they can tell us, the vibrational energy of the organ or the system, and then they will show us why it's doing what it's doing, which is pretty cool.
That's so cool. And then because they're doing, so I'm assuming then because they do that, then they can offer something that you have to do to rectify it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things that we do, I mean, with our clients and in our membership, is we create customized protocols for people. And again, it's taking all of the guesswork out of things, and it's just looking at things as a vibrational match of what they're just saying right now. It's more of a body communication. So you know how sometimes, something will be happening where we're told our adrenal glands are shot, and so we go and, we see a naturopath, and when we come back and we're taking 200 supplements, right? Or now we're not eating any dairy or gluten, or we're doing all of these things because for the most part, it's a cookie cutter prescription, right? In the same way that Western medicine does it, Eastern medicine does it too. They say, oh, you have this. Okay, so here are the vitamins you take. Here are the supplements. Here's the stack of things that you're supposed to take. But what happens is, because we are limited capacity in the human vehicle to hold frequency, we only have so much space. And everything that we bring into us takes a little bit of that space up. If we are bringing stuff in that's not, we're not able to receive, so meaning the body is like, I don't need that right now. That's not because of the layering aspects, right? Because the body always prioritizes the biggest threats first, right? It kind of puts everything off to the side. It brings all of its attention to the major threats. Now, it intelligently does that because it knows it has limited resources. So it's like, we're going to put all of our best workers over here on this project, and we're just going to let all this other stuff wait. So when we start piling in supplements and food and do this and drink that and all this stuff, the body has to have a vibrational conversation with all of these frequencies, right? So it's kind of like in the, in the mediumship world, we have what's called a gatekeeper. So you have like, right, your gatekeeper says, yes, you can come in. No, you can't come in. And the body does the same thing with every type of frequency that we bring in. There's a communication, a very subtle communication that happens that says, yes, we need this right now. Bring this in. Or no, we have too much of that same kind of frequency. You're overdoing it. It's just making us feel worse. And, the miscommunication that happens between the mind and the body when we get sick or when we're, depressed or have anxiety, that creates a distortion with that communication. And so what my spirit team does is they're able to come in there, they recognize the vibrational state of the body, and they do this very gentle nuance with it. It's like very, okay, we hear you. Okay, let's bring this in. Okay, that works. That'll be good for you. And as we do this, it's very interesting because they show us it'll be a layer of density that comes off, so a physical aspect. Then it'll be an emotional layer that comes off, right? And then it'll be a spiritual or soul aspect that comes off, because all of it is work. We're here to do this work. Yeah, so that's kind of how they put it all together.
That's so cool, isn't it?
That's amazing.
That's really cool.
It's so cool.
So I'm intrigued now. Is that part of the 369 method, or what is your 369 method? What does that look like? What's involved there?
Yeah, so exciting. And I have to tell you this. So the entire program was created by Spirit. It's completely led by Spirit. So this was not just me, all of the books that I've read, all the videos, it's not that at all. And I had to really kind of go into it with blind faith because I knew what they were using to help me was working. But I also knew very strongly that it was not a one-size-fits-all equation. So I did not want to have a program where it was going to be, here, just do what I did because it worked. Because clearly we are all different vibrationally, and we're all at different aspects of our experiences. And so they created this program through the frequency, the Tesla frequencies of the 3, the 6, and the 9. Now, I honestly didn't know a lot about that. And this is also kind of an interesting thing about my spiritual path, is that they've always kept things out of my agenda, or out of my, so many things that I didn't really look into in depth. So meaning I didn't know a lot about Dolores Cannon. I didn't know much about Nikola Tesla. And I feel like they kind of would keep things out of my peripheral view so that I didn't have a bias on them.
Yeah.
Right? So that when they do bring things in, that I don't have like a personal opinion, or, that is going to cloud that. And so when they said, we're going to create the program through these frequencies, I was like, oh, so now I need to like learn about Nikola Tesla. And they were like, no, you don't understand. This is going to be about the frequency of it. They said, we're going to calibrate all of the modules in the program through these frequencies. And what it means is that the 3 representing the body, 6 representing the mind, and the 9 representing the soul.
Right.
And what they showed me was that as empaths and highly sensitive people, our mainframe, they call it our mainframe, but it's our, our nervous system, is completely wired differently. And because of that, we need body, mind, soul support simultaneously. And so this is why lots of times when we go and do these, retreats or courses or classes, and this is about the body, and then here's the mind, and here's the soul, we're only able to get little bits and pieces of it,
Yeah.
right? And so they created our program then with all of those frequencies simultaneously holding you at the same time and giving you that support.
Oh, yes.
I love that.
Magic.
And it's so funny you said that, because when I've said this before as well, haven't I? When I started working as a hypnotherapist and obviously trained, and it's predominantly the mind, very quickly I started working and I was thinking, this isn't enough. I can't just work on the mind without working on the body and the soul as well. And I very quickly created my own program that included working on all three of those things, because you can't have one without the other. Or I'd know, well, I can't work on that if they don't understand this aspect of their body, and they can't grasp that concept if they don't understand the concept that they're a soul, and everything is
Yeah.
just so interwoven, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I kind of saw that with my own programs that I created, so I find that really
Yeah.
fascinating. That's
Love that.
interesting. Yeah. Amazing. So, okay, so you've said empath and highly sensitive people a lot. I'm pretty sure everybody listening to this knows what that is, and is one, more than likely, if they're watching our
Yeah.
show. I know we are both definitely highly sensitive, empathic people, but can we just talk a little bit more about that? How is it that, like you said, that we're wired differently? And that's interesting, because I'm trained in Dolores Cannon's QHHT method as well.
Okay.
And I've spoken to quite a few higher selves who have said that exact thing, that that this person is an empath, their nervous system is wired differently. And so,
Wow.
yeah, it's really cool. And they told me as well, they said that you're an empath, your nervous system is wired differently, in the way that you anchor your energy and anchor your frequency is by animals. And I knew this person didn't know me, but I know that I do that. I know I use animals to kind of calm my nervous system, and if I feel any kind of anything unbalanced, I'll go straight to an animal and I can feel it diffusing.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to add that, because I just thought that that's really interesting. But yeah, so with highly sensitive people, can you just talk a little bit more about kind of like how we're wired differently and how we feel things differently? Because that's a lot of your work is obviously revolved around that, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I love that validation. See, I love it when people will say things like that about, the sessions that you were doing, and then getting that, because it shows that I didn't read it in a book. I didn't read it. And so clearly, spirit doesn't just work with me. They work with others to give us the same information. So I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So empaths, we have a very, very specific blueprint, right? So our energetic receptors are different. And it's very interesting because we incarnate into this lifetime with these frequencies. So we have outside of the body, our frequency is very light, right? We love to explore. We come for experience. We have a massive capacity to hold light. This is why, so many of us step into the role of, healer, guide, guru, right? And not necessarily just professionally, but also, we choose very specific parent portals. So Spirit calls them our parent portals. And it's interesting because we often have one parent or both parents who have narcissistic tendencies, right? And I know that sometimes I get a little bit of backlash when I use that word, because it's a very clinical term. And but I always say, just like on the empath, there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum of being on an empath. And it's the same thing. I believe narcissists have a spectrum. There's a spectrum on there for sure. And wherever you find an empath, you'll find a narcissist. Right? Because it's very much opposites attract, right?
Yeah.
There's that. And we learn off of each other, though. This is the thing about it is, we're not meant to fear the narcissist. We're not meant to hate them. We are all meant to grow together, right? We do this. And so when we talk about, if you were to say, how many boxes do I check to be an empath? That's probably where you can start off with. You can probably say that, you came in through the parent portals of one or both of your parents having those tendencies. You probably came into a bit of dysfunction in the family state. So having that instability, that sense of not fitting in, kind of being different, right? You hear the feeling like the black sheep of the family, right? And part of that is, you know, and one of the biggest lessons of the empath is like, what's mine and what's theirs?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because even as small children, we start to, we become very quickly people pleasers
Mm.
because we're picking up everybody else's stuff and we're not sure where it's coming from, but we know that that's not our true frequency. The density is not our true frequency. So we know we want to help it, heal it, fix it, save it somehow, right? And very interesting, most empaths spend a huge portion of their experiences outside of themselves.
Yeah.
So either, literally out of body, as in my human body doesn't feel safe to me, so I'm out of body. So that would feel like being ungrounded, right? Not being able to ground. That's why you would go to pets and, find their anchor in there. And or we do a lot of living through others, right? We do a lot of, now they're my priority. Now that's my project. Now I'm going to help them. And yet we need so much help ourselves, right? It's a very hard lesson for us to learn, but it's like we are constantly operating from a half full cup. Our cup is kind of like never filled up, right? And it was very interesting because when we started to put the program together and Spirit was talking about the physical aspects of an empath.
Quick pause, lovely. If you're exhausted from trying so hard and your body just won't let you slow down, we made a free 12-minute reset to help you feel calm, safe, and grounded again. It's called Return to Self. Link in the show notes.
We have a very, very specific hormonal drip that we have. It's very specifically blended. So our adrenaline is a bit different. Our cortisol is a little bit different, vibrationally speaking. And because we always have this drip of this like potion, right, that's coming into our system, because most empaths spend a lot of time in fight or flight, to some degree. And because of that, there's that constant drip. When we bring in the physical aspect of it, Spirit calls it the human terrain into the picture, because the frequencies on this planet have changed, right? They're changed so much that the pathogens on the planet have changed and adapted with it too. So we're talking about the viruses, the bacteria, the parasites. They're all very intelligent beings. And because we all have the human condition, we all have these beings. We're all sharing space with all of these beings. Now, here's where empaths stand out a little bit. Because we have this drip, this cocktail that these bugs actually love, they devour it. It's a very special mix that they love. And because of that, we often have a very complicated physical aspect. So we often have very high levels of viruses, bacteria, parasites in the body. And because of that, it then limits our capacity to hold light in the way that we're meant to. So it becomes this really, really deep portal of know thyself, of like, I know I can hold the light. I can feel the light. Why can't I bring it in and anchor it in? And then we're shown that physical aspect because you have too many visitors in your home and you have to clear them out. So I feel like they're just saying that's one of the components that's often overlooked, especially with the empaths. And I can tell you with all of the readings that we do, all the clients that we have, it's easy to get lost down the rabbit hole of, oh, I'm feeling this because of karmic ties. This was a past life that came up in this particular thing. Or do you know what I mean? Like the very etheric stuff that we also know is part of the equation. But because of all of that, and Spirit calls that stuff old school, because of all of that, it takes our focus and attention away from the very simplistic of what's your human vehicle doing? How is, they show us the analogy of, an empath saying that, need 4 new tires on their human vehicle. You need 4 new tires. But they go to the mechanic and they say, I'd really like one of those like hand warmers on my steering wheel. Can you put that in? Right? And the mechanic is like, but you have no tires on your car. That's okay. That's okay. I just need that. If my hands could be comfortable, then I would be. That's kind of, how we fall into that scenario. So it becomes the empath loop of discovery.
Yeah. I've never heard that
No, I haven't.
that particular part before. I've read a lot of stuff, especially when I first started my spiritual journey. Like the empath was the first route in.
But definitely,
It is,
like,
isn't
we
it?
didn't even really know that word, did
No.
we? And then you said
That's
it,
like,
and we
yeah,
were like, "Oh, this
that's us.
this makes sense."
Yeah.
Yeah, but what is this?
And I've never heard that explanation with the pathogens and the kind of our bodies are different. Because I did see something once and it made sense to me. And they said that because we have like mirror neurons in our mind, which, obviously we all have them as humans, but empaths supposedly have more mirror neurons. And that means like, we can feel other people's, feelings, or we kind of do actions unconsciously, subconsciously, that mirror other people to make them feel comfortable. It was just,
Oh God,
it just made
that's
so much sense to me. And I just thought that's really interesting. And that's what sparked off my thinking that empaths could actually be physiologically different to people who aren't necessarily empaths. So that's actually really, really interesting. I find that
and I
fascinating.
feel like I used to get a lot sicker before our spiritual awakening, if you like, and we got onto this empath stuff. You were the same, weren't you? Like cold after cold after cold after cold. And now, since then, we're hardly ever sick now, are we?
No.
So
Yeah.
that's that. And like we were talking about you mentioned like how the frequency of Earth has changed so much. And we were talking earlier about how we're really feeling it at the moment. And we're getting a lot of neck pain, aren't we? And dizziness as well, aren't we? And we're guessing a lot of people are feeling this way. Is that we're thinking it's the energies? Is that what's happening?
So definitely, we have been having so many geostorms, solar flares, which we always do. Like this is not just something that's just started, but the intensity of them has changed, right? So this is where it gets so complicated because, when we bring in the dark agenda, because there's a dark agenda on this planet, it's all about power, manipulation, control. That's, they call it the planet of density for a reason. So, our sun is changed, right? The Schumann resonance, we can see that the vibrational aspect of the planet is changing, right? We can see that the solar flares are changing the intensity. We can literally feel the radiation come in on days where there's a wave of radiation that comes in. Now, what happens is that all of these frequencies that are coming in activate the pathogens in the body. This is designed on purpose. We saw, it came out into the public of how, they use, pathogens as weapons of mass destruction. They know that they can do it. It's a technology that they know that they can anchor in and use. And what happens is when these big energy systems are coming through, they're activated. So the pathogens in the body become activated. So whatever your weakest system is in your human vehicle, that's where you're going to feel kind of like the kink in your hose, right? So as an example, if you're somebody who's an empath or a sensitive, your nervous system is probably going to be affected the most, right? When we talk about our nervous system, which organs feel it the most? Our head, our mind, our brain, right? All of that stuff. And so we feel the symptoms because of that activation. So you'll notice that when we're having those big systems come through, if you make those bug killing days, we call them, a priority, so meaning you're taking, supplements or herbs that are a vibrational match for you. You can use kinesiology for this to muscle test it, or, not everybody has the ability to go and see a medical medium to do this. So you can learn how to do it yourself. We teach our members in the program how to communicate with the body and know which vibrational frequency they need to bring in. But as an example, lemon balm is kind of like a universal, most empaths resonate with it very, very well. It's a great nervous system stabilizer. It also kills the bugs. So you get like a 2-for-1 kind of deal in that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we remove the things that feed the bugs. So gluten, dairy, and eggs being the top 3 offenders. And everybody always says eggs. Why do you say eggs? Like I'm an organic farmer and we raise our eggs and our chickens and we love our eggs and there's nothing inherently wrong with eggs, but because they were used, in the laboratories to feed the bugs, when we eat eggs, the bugs automatically recognize it as feed, so they eat it, right? So I feel like that's like a missing component for lots of empaths because, even with our followers, we can share and say, okay, there's big energy coming in right now. Like this week has been crazy. It's been intense. And they can kind of get lost in the astral realm of it, right? Of the purpose, the ascension of it, all of that. And that is there, that layer's there, but they forget the very, very simple basics of like, how's my human vehicle doing? What am I doing? Am I hydrating? Am I clearing out the pathogens? Am I supporting my nervous system? Right? All of this stuff. Because here's the cool part of this. It's not all bad news. So it's not all, whenever we have, the agenda kind of manipulating systems and these distorted waves come into us, you better believe that the light is countering it, right? We know that we come from God, creator, source, the light. That has an agenda on our planet too. It has an agenda to heal, to stabilize, right? To rescue, to resuscitate, to all of this huge mission. We're all, frontline workers on this mission, right? And that light comes in. So, we'll often have times where, through the night, we'll have all these light codes coming in. They're literally sending us frequencies that we can use to heal. And then in the morning, we'll have the waves of the radiation. So it's very much this roller coaster ride, but there's so much opportunity for growth through it all, right? It's such a massive portal of know thyself, discover thyself.
Yeah. And you just mentioned light codes there. And I think like you definitely hear that thrown around a lot now, don't you? You hear light codes thrown around everywhere. And I'm sure some people are saying, what actually are light codes? In your opinion, what are light codes and how can we kind of receive them? Are we receiving them anyway, or do we have to be open to receiving them? What can we do with them? How do they help us? Could you just talk a little bit more about
For
that?
sure. Now, I feel like when I say light codes, they have me use those words because it's like a universal language that everybody understands. Now, they don't call them light codes. They simply call them frequencies. So it'll depend on what they're trying to support us with. So whether it's creating, eliminating the distortion that's coming through, right? A lot of the work that they do is very deflective. So a lot of the, frequencies that they send to us are to create shields around us, to, give us that kind of break from the attack that we get from some of these frequencies that are coming in. Now, your light body, so can only bring in what it has room for. So does everybody receive the light codes? Does everybody receive the downloads? No, because if you have reached maximum capacity as to how much frequency you're holding in your vessel, you literally can't fit it in. Right? That's why our job, our mission is to recognize that density, release it so that we create space. Now, sages have been doing this since the beginning of time. When you do meditation, what are you doing in meditation? You're creating space. Why do we create space? So that we can receive. Right? So it's kind of, in that, and it's also, they're just saying right now, it's not a one size fits all equation. So I may get specific light codes that come in or downloads depending on, my mission and how I'm supposed to be showing up. You guys are the same thing. You might be getting exactly what you need. And you're always getting exactly what you need. And I feel like if anybody, is out there and they're struggling and they're like, all I'm getting right now is the bad stuff, I'm not feeling any of the good stuff, then go back to the very basics of it, the simplicity of it, and just say, what density am I aware of that I'm hanging on to? So remember, thoughts, emotions are all frequencies and they all take up space, right?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And it makes me, think that the work that I'm doing, I'm working a lot on kind of clearing densities, actually, with limiting beliefs, certain beliefs that they've carried through from childhood, from past lives, whatever. It's all density. It's all things that are dense. It's causing density in their life. So by doing that kind of shadow work or the ego work or however you want to call it, because it's done in lots of different ways, I'm assuming like we're actually being called to do that. So we are making more space for the light to come in.
Absolutely.
And so then why do we want the light to come in? So what does that do for us empaths and highly sensitive people as we're letting more light in, as we're shedding the density and letting more light in? What's that going to look like for them? What's that doing, and why are we doing that?
It changes the level of our experiences, right? So many of the empaths that are incarnated at this particular time are doing a lot of ancestral work. So we're doing a lot of cycle breaking, right? A lot of really, really big healing part of it is for this particular planet. Because again, if you think about everything being a frequency, and if we think about, the horrifics of our ancestries and the suffering and the killing and it still happens now. We still have this. Every single time, an act of evil happens, there's like a dump of density frequency wise, right? Which, this planet does its best. It's just like, when you see an animal and they have fleas, as an example, a dog that has fleas, the dog will intuitively, if it's healthy, it will just it shakes the fleas off. And when it's healthy, it has a strong immune system, the fleas won't live on that particular dog. And it's the same thing with the planet. So the planet has just reached its maximum capacity for holding density. And now it's bringing all of these empaths onto the planet because we hold more light than other vessels to be able to help to shake off this density, right? So the big part of the mission is, it's the micro and the macro of it all, is that we can look outside of ourselves because it's so easy for us to do. And say, I'm one of the frontline workers. I'm here to change the planet. I'm here to save the planet and get rid of the evil and the dark. But we can't do any of that unless we're doing the inner world, right? So that's what we do. We do the inner world. We learn how to release the density. We grow through the density. We don't fear it. And then we rise in frequency. When we rise in frequency, we come onto that new timeline. And so this is another thing you hear always in the spiritual world. Oh, there's a timeline shift. There's a timeline jump. They happen all of the time. It really does. One of the things that Spirit had always said to me when I was doing psychic work is that nothing's ever written in stone. It means everything is always shifting and changing based on the frequencies that we are pumping out there. Now, we see this because, there's like global meditations that happen, right? You'll see a whole bunch of light workers get together on a specific day and they do a meditation and it brings more light in, it anchors the light. We know that we can do it. We just don't do it all of the time.
Yeah.
I know exactly. I think that a lot as well. Imagine if we could all take that seriously, and bring in all that light.
And I think I love hearing it from your side, because I'm doing the work that I'm doing because I see the same as you. Like, that's what I think. Like, if I can help as many because the people I work with are predominantly women and empaths and light workers, whatever you want to kind of call them. And I just think the more people like that I can help to clear the density, i.e. their limiting beliefs and the childhood trauma, past life trauma, ancestral trauma, the more I can get them out there like doing their thing and harnessing more light, because I see it as that bigger picture as well. The more of us that are doing our own internal work, the more that is going to allow more light to come into the planet, and that's going to directly affect everybody, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Everyone's going to benefit from that. And
Yes.
that's kind of like the bigger picture I hold. And also, like, I'm so grateful to every person that I see that's doing this kind of inner work of shedding, because I know I'm directly benefiting from it as well. And
Yes.
I wish more people understood that, because I think a lot of the time, particularly with empaths and highly sensitive people, obviously because we feel so deeply, and you can look at the state of the world and you can, feel it, and that's just bringing your vibration down. It's lowering your vibration, but you're actually hindering the help. You think you're helping because you feel bad for people and you're feeling all the feelings, but actually, what I say to people is, if you can kind of not shut it out, because we don't, it's still there, we know that it's there, and you can have empathy for that, but then focus it back on you and think, how can I shed the density in myself, and know that it will have, if we're all doing it, it's going to have a direct reflection on all of the horrible stuff that you see in this earth, because that density can't survive if we are raising the density of the planet, and the planet's raising her own density as well. And and I just, like, that's how I see the bigger picture for us moving forward, and that's what I see empaths and highly sensitive people, that's the work. That's why we're here, isn't it? To anchor that light. And then it makes me think of, like, why I use the animals, because it's like, I see us as kind of points, like anchors, where the light's kind of coming in and we're putting it into the grid of earth, and everyone's kind of feeling it and benefiting from it.
Exactly. And one of the things that we forget is that density feeds on a very specific frequency, and it's fear. It devours the fear, just like the pathogens in our body devour that cortisol, adrenaline. It's the frequency of fear. So it's very interesting when spirit, I don't watch the news, I don't read the newspaper, so I get my information from my family members. They'll say, "Did you hear about this?" Or "Did you hear that that's happening?"
That's why we do the same. Becky's my informant. She knows what I need to hear and what I don't need to hear.
And I always, because I don't know anything about it, and and I know that I have a spirit team, I always let them come in first and do this kind of like feel into it and be like, okay, so first of all, is it accurate? Is it real? Because we live in the world of smoke and mirrors, because there's so much going on with that. But when they look into something, so something, say a horrific thing happens on the planet, they don't have an emotional injection to it, right? They literally see it as something that is dense that's happened. We can see there's a collection of dense energies that have merged together and it's created this experience. They don't go into fear about it. They don't get sad about it. They don't, right? It's very, very much, it is what it is. Okay, it's like, if you were a garbage collector and you're on your garbage route and you pull up at this house and there's a massive amount of garbage there, you probably wouldn't sit there and cry about it and like get mad at the people and be like, "Oh my God, why do you have so much garbage?" Instead, you would just start picking up the garbage bags and putting it on the truck to clean it up. And I feel like, that's what they teach us to do. It's not stick your head in the sand and, pretend that it's all rainbows and unicorns, because we know the evil that exists on this planet. But it's also, when you are trying to, you can't be an angry peacekeeper. So don't come into that, mission with the hostility and rage and, like, how can you do this? And because what are those frequencies doing? They're feeding the density, right? So we have to be aware of that. And we are such powerful frequency generators, right? Empaths. We have the busiest minds of any being on the planet. We have amazing imaginations. And, the truth is that the human, they call it the AI brain, it doesn't know when something is real or not. So if that's the case, instead of us going into projecting fear, which we know that is feeding the fuel of the density, we look at it as in like, oh, here's an energetic cleanup on aisle 9. Let's clean it up, right?
Yeah.
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 So I think that that's really, really important for us to remember.
Yeah, I love that. And like what I find that helps me to do what you've kind of just said, to do that, it's like the dark's there. We know the dark, the evil, the denser vibrations, the lower vibrations, they're there, and that's fine. But it's not like we don't have to fight them. It's not a fight. It's not a war. You just have to shine brighter. You have to harness more of that light, and that outshines the dark. And I find that's just a really helpful way for me to kind of to hold on to and remember that, like, they can't stop you shining. They can't do
And
that.
it's resonance, right?
Yeah.
You're when we start to rise in frequency, all of the distortion, the darkness, the density starts to fall off. It doesn't have the ability to stick to us, right?
Yeah.
So that's super, super important for us to know, especially in the, in the whole woo-woo world. You probably, I should write a book just about this, about, oh, I saw this reader or this healer, and they said to me I had like 2,000 entities attached to me, and I had 50,000 attachments, or I had a curse, a generational curse that's been in my family. All of this stuff. You guys are laughing, but this is people really, and then they anchor in this and they say, yeah, you know what? This is what's happening.
Yeah.
And then spirit comes in and goes, yeah, but this is about resonance. You're believing this stuff. You are vibrating at the same bandwidth that this dark stuff is. So, of course, you can see it and you can feel it and you can hear it and you can know it. Do you like it? Change your station, raise your frequency up so they are no longer in your experience. It's
Yeah.
that easy. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went through that phase, didn't we, of the
Mm.
entities attached.
And then I was just like,
Yeah,
no,
but now we're
not doing
over
this
that now.
anymore. Like,
Moving on from that.
yeah, it's and it is, like you said, it really is that easy. But I think
Yeah.
it's not so easy. It was a journey to understand. Oh, actually, it is how I'm vibrating. You don't have to be drawn into the fear. It's a choice, and you have sovereignty, and nothing can take that away from you. You can feed and you can align with the fear and the lower vibrations, but they can't make you do it. It's always a choice. It might be an unconscious choice, but it is always a choice. So once you become aware of that, that's powerful, isn't it? And then, like you said, just get out of that frequency band, go up higher. Remember your light and harness more of that light.
Yeah, and that's when we drop the fear. I think that enables you to do that, doesn't it? When you haven't got, when you know that fear's totally gone, and you can come at it like that. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's a journey.
It is a journey. It's a journey. Jodi, this has been such an awesome conversation, and I've like, particularly the things you said about the pathogens in empaths.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to
We've
know
not heard
more about
that.
that.
I know. That's cool.
Need to
Yeah,
dive into
very
a bit more about that.
interesting.
Lemon balm on the
I
shopping
know,
list.
right? Yeah.
But before we leave, what would you, to all the empaths and highly sensitive people listening now, what would you like to leave them with?
Yeah, I feel like, you're probably going to spend a lot of time looking outside of yourself for the stuff that you really need. And just, again, the basics, go back to basics. So probably compassion you've been lacking. So learn how to, ignite that compassion frequency within. You've said it several times. This is, connecting with animals. Great way to do it. Connecting with children, right? Nature, being outside, all of that stuff ignites the good frequencies. And I feel like that just opens up your bandwidth. So when you, really bring in just something simple like compassion, you explore that frequency. What does it mean to me? How does that feel? Where am I lacking? And let go of the expectations that you're going to get it from outside and bring it in, because it's already within you. It just has to be cleared. The density needs to be cleared around it so that you can see it, so that it can start to expand. But I feel like right now, they're showing me that's the focus on the frequency of compassion. And get out of the mind about it. Don't be like, oh, this is what compassion means. If I look up compassion in the dictionary, this is the meaning of it. No, just look at the compassion frequency. Feel into it. When you say that word or you write that word down, what kind of a reaction does the body have? How does that feel? Where does it take you to what experience, what person, what place? And then, Spirit's always saying to our clients, follow the bread trail crumbs. and follow it and be like, oh, I remember that. Okay, that's why I need to work on that. Yeah, and they're just saying, and it's in simplicity. Don't complicate things. Don't try and memorize everything in all of the books and everything that everybody's trying to know thyself. Go into the portal of know thyself.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's been such a pleasure talking to you, Jodi. Where can people find you?
So you can find me on my website. So that's jodi-jones.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, and it's Jodi Jones Psychic Medium.
Awesome. Thank you. I will put all your details in the show notes as well. So guys, that is it for this week. We will see you again next week. Jodi, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jodi.
Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. Thank you. Keep doing the good work.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you.